How to sew a pillow. First, you need to find the fabric you want to use. It doesn't really matter what it looks like, but a cotton blend of some sort is the easiest to work with. Then, you need some sewing scissors, some safety pins, a needle and thread, some fabric chalk, a measuring tape, stuffing, your fabric, and of course, your sewing machine. First, take your tape measure and figure out how big you want your pillow to be. I'm making mine 10 inches by 10 inches. You'll need to add half an inch for your seam allowance. Using your tape measure, measure and mark off with your chalk how long you want the sides of your pillow to be on the fabric. Then, take whatever length you just marked down and double it. Take that new length and mark it down on the fabric like I have. After that, take the original length you had before doubling it and mark it down on the fabric like I did. Once you've marked where you will cut, take your fabric scissors and cut to each one of those marks in a straight line. This should leave you with a rectangle that's width is half of its length. It's important to measure the sides just to make sure you cut it right. After that, fold the rectangle in half to make a perfect square. After you folded it, do not cut along the fold because then that is just more you have to sew later. Now, pin the fabric together along the three sides. But leave an opening at the top that is not pinned shut. Pin the fabric together by taking a pin, stabbing it down through the fabric, tilting it towards yourself, and then pushing it back up through the fabric again. For the sewing machine. Take the fabric and line up a corner by the fold underneath and in line with the foot of the machine. Put the foot and the needle down, pull out the nearest pin in the fabric, and slowly press your foot down on the pedal. After doing a few stitches forward, do a few back before going forward again. Pull out the pins as you go, and once you get to the edge of the fabric, keep sewing until the fabric is no longer underneath the foot. Then lift the needle and the foot up, pull the fabric out, and cut the thread. When sewing the top side of the pillow, you need to leave an opening. So start at one corner, line up the fabric, go forward a bit, then back, then forward until you get to where your opening will be. Then go back, lift the foot and the needle up, pull the fabric out and cut the thread. Repeat this on the other side of the opening. Sewing one side and the top with the opening, sew the last side just like you did with the first. Now you're done with the sewing machine, but you still need to finish off your pillow. Cut the loose threads on the fabric, but make sure not to cut the fabric itself. After you do this, flip the pillow inside out so that the seam is no longer visible. Then, take your stuffing and pack it into the pillow through the opening. Make sure not to put too much in though, because we still need to sew the top closed later. To get the stuffing into the corners of the pillow, I like to use a chopstick to help push it down. After stuffing it, you now need to sew the top closed. To do this, you'll need your needle and thread. Take your thread and cut a long piece. Then take that piece and put one end of it through the eye of the needle. Then take the two ends of the thread and tie them together to make a couple of knots. Now you can sew the top shut by hand. After sewing the top shut, you need to take the thread and tie a few knots at the end closest to the fabric. After doing this, you can then cut the thread, and congratulations, you've made your own pillow.